Atheist Antidote starts now. The podcast, where pop culture and Christian conservative commentary collide.
Tickets for an early premiere. See Man of Steel yesterday.
What'd you think of the film? I know your expectations were just mammoth.
It was the best movie I've ever seen in that genre. If you're going to go for an action adventure, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Yeah, after having a night to think about it, I think he maybe did too much because there's no follow-up that can compare to this. To tap the well's going to be dry. I could see why the movie took 2.5 years because there's just so much in it. And guys like you and I, there's such overt pro-America, pro-Christian faith in this movie. And the one review said there was like overt Christian stuff in it and overt patriotic stuff in it. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And he was absolutely right. So if you're offended by that sort of thing, if you're offended by it, there's like 2 scenes in the movie where are going to make you sick. The last movie, 2006, that they made Superman, it's goodness, whatever his mantra is in the American way. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And they opted out of that last time. They said something, all that stuff. So they got rid of the American way. So I thought, well, maybe that's just the way it is. So, he'll be the world's superhero. And I'm not happy about that. I was afraid of that for Captain America. But they did a great job with Captain America. And they did just as good a job in this one, keeping it. The Heartland thing, where he's from Kansas and he's a farm boy. And it was just so great.
You got to ask yourself, the ideological opposition to us has such thin skin because we have to endure this onslaught of all the time. They get it once in a while and they throw a fit like a kid in a grocery store.
My concern is he'll pull a Matrix and they'll get such bad feedback that the next one will be like, something will happen where, he kind of cleans up his mess like the Matrix kind of did with their parallels. I mean, it's the same kind of feeling where there's parallels that are just obvious, and then there's interpretive ones, but this one's he just chose to just make it obvious.
I mean, to take Superman and go any other direction is just a fail, because it's so overtly those things.
Yeah, you're right. 2 years ago, when I heard that this guy was directing and I heard the cast, I joined a couple, message boards or whatever, and I said, I'm actually a little concerned because this is a bright superhero, and my concern would be that he would darken him up too much. But he really didn't. What he did is he dug deep in the sense that he showed you how this guy would feel. Because the classic story is that he's got these great parents. And these great parents teach him how to control himself physically, but also emotionally, and also show restraint and all these things that he would have to do in order to not become like this crazy dictator of the world, vengeance. And you see all that. You see that, and the cast was wonderful. I mean, you had the Krypton thing, which I've never seen before. It was about 20 minutes on Krypton, which was really cool. It was beautifully done. And he made a couple of choices with technology where he did the right thing. He did the kind of thing where they did make the obvious choice, which is our version of what someone else's technology would be, like our understanding of someone else's technology.
Yeah,
he didn't do that. Yeah. He made it so we couldn't figure it out. It's like beyond us, so don't even try to figure out. Like the technology they have is
right.
Like a lot of times time travel movies will do this where they'll be like right now's version of what the future will look like.
Yeah, it'll be a couple strides in front of us by way of the race, which is not believable.
And the way they tell the story, the flashbacks and stuff was a great choice. Because everyone's seen with Smallville and the other stuff, everyone's seen all that time in him growing up and his adolescence. So they kind of just quickly glaze over that, but they give it enough that if you've never seen the Superman movie, you get it. But they don't spend all this time in Smallville like other movies.
Yeah.
They just touch on it 4 or 5 times for a few minutes here and there, just to give him the feel of like he's a small town guy. So Kevin Costner just slayed it, and so did
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe just assassinated it. If I had one criticism, which maybe would take away a 0.5 point out of 10, it would be Michael Shannon didn't hit me as like the previews and some of the interviews. They made it seem like this guy just did a role of a lifetime. It wasn't the Joker, kind of epic. You can only get this role once in a lifetime. He did a very good job, but it wasn't killer. It was just very good. But the rest of the movie was perfect.
I mean, think about the expectations that are on your shoulder as an actor. I mean, you're carrying probably the largest comic book role you can possibly carry. I mean, there's no way to fill
Superman was perfect and never ever once dropped the ball. There was never a moment in the movie that you were not utterly sucked in and entertained. The only
crazy interesting that they cast a Brit. You know what I mean? Just crazy.
I've seen him in movies where he does American accents. He's only been in a handful of them. But he always kind of like slipped up here and there. It wasn't perfect. But they must have got a great dialect coach because you never detect.
No, I like that they did it. I like that they did it. That makes it interesting to me.
Yeah, he seems like a really great guy. So, I mean, who knows?
You know what I think works about this? This is just an interesting little nuance. I think works about that because I've seen it done a lot. Like the classic example is obviously The Walking Dead with the main character. But you know what I like about it is the Brits, they don't have all the baggage of being an American when they're playing a role, so they don't slip in their little stereotypes. They take it as an external role, so they just they actually say, okay, what am I playing? And they don't take all their Americanism and all their weird American opinions.
They're objective, so
they're objective about it.
Yeah.
And I think that makes for actually a good cast. In a real weird turn of dichotomy, it makes.
No, I understand it because they are so objective. They're playing what the research tells them an American would be, not what watered down. You know,
and they don't feel all this obligation to their like lib friends to like throw some stink on.
Exactly. Because of course, if you size us up versus someone from Great Britain, we're idealistic and we have all these rights, and so they're playing it as optimistic.
Yes, they're playing it with like Shakespearean intellectual honesty, where you're just taking the character and you're just going after it as a thespian, and you're not putting all this other stuff on it.
Visit the Atheist Antidotes YouTube channel. Share this podcast with a friend.